Guys, and welcome to another episode of Electrifying the DOORhofs. Today we are driving to Germany, and this is the first time ever we're going to take the Ioniq on a trip that's further away than the range. The range in winter is about 170 to 180, and in summer probably around 200 to 250 depending on how you drive. So join us for today's episode, and today's going to be special because, as mentioned before, it's the first time we're going to drive this far, and it's also the first time ever we're going to use public charging. Now, if you want to plan trips like this, you have several apps that will actually show you all the charging points. You have your sat nav in the car, which also shows you the charging points. The problem with the car is actually that those aren't updated regularly. So that means that, well, they might say there's a charging point, and the charging point may or may not have gone. So that's not very reliable, especially if you have 10% left in your batteries. So don't trust on that one. So we're using apps. Now, in those apps you can actually also filter what kind of chargers you need, and of course we don't want to spend somewhere like an hour or 2 hours waiting for charging, so we actually filter on only the fast chargers. So let's see how that works out today. So join us.
Gotta give a little, just to get a little. Gotta give a little, just to. There's something about you. You don't care about what you do. You gotta give a little, just to get a little, or you'll never find success. If you don't give a little, just to get a little, no one's gonna hold you back.
Okay, so we're 30 kilometers from Emmen, and in Emmen there should be a fast charger. The only thing I didn't realize that it's a normal fast charger, so one phase. And I think this car will actually charge at 6.6 kilowatt hours on one phase. The cool thing is the Ioniq is really efficient because we still have 110 kilometers left. So that will probably mean that we only have to charge for like 15 or 20 minutes to have enough charge to actually go to a Fastned or maybe even get home. We'll see. So the chargers are actually at Wildlands, and that brings us to one of the questions. Do we need to pay for parking, and can we actually charge there if we don't visit Wildlands? Well, we'll figure it out when we get there.
It's a zoo wildlands.
Yeah, it's a zoo Wildlands. Okay, as you can see, this is probably only for the visitors of the zoo. So, and we still have enough range, so we're gonna find another charger. I don't want to take the risk here.
Well, you have to pay for parking as well.
Yeah, and you have to pay for parking. So we're going to find another charger.
There's something about you. You don't care about what you do. You gotta give a little, just to get a little, or you'll never find success. If you don't give a little, just to get a little, no one's gonna hold you back. There's something about you. There's something about you. You don't care about what you do. You gotta give a little, just to get a little, or you'll never find success. If you don't give a little, just to get a little, no one's gonna hold you back.
Okay, now this definitely isn't a fast charger. So what we're going to do is we still have to do some shopping. So we're going to do some shopping, find a restroom, and then just come back. And then we have more than enough range to actually get to Germany and back. Because actually with the range we already have, it's still 47%. We could have made it easily, but I don't want to take any risks.
I know that you're curious, I know that you're strong, but life can be furious and things can go wrong. You go, better off tomorrow, but who knows?
Okay, so we checked in Noorderplein 90 in Emmen, and I actually put in that we're going to be charging for 1 hour. You can actually see my name here and that it's now connected. You can also see how long we will still stay there. So this is a really cool app, and especially when you drive an EV, I really advise you to use a social app like this, because at that point, if somebody wants to charge, they actually know how long you will still be there and when you will actually unplug, so the charge point will be available again.
But not forever. There's things in life you simply need to know. But sun and rain and trust in letting go.
Okay, we've been gone for about less than an hour. We started on 47%, and let's see where we are now. This was a really slow charger. And we're now at 108 kilometers. So it did charge. So let's see how many percent. 64, so from 47 to 64 in about an hour. We charge way faster at home.
We fall, but we always rise up through it all, it all. We get a little wiser. There's things in life you simply need to know. But sun and rain and trust in letting go. It takes a bit of suffering, sleepless nights and wondering before you make it safely to the end, the end, the end. And if you ever wonder.
We arrived in Germany and we're ready to go to the Mediamarkt. Up until now, we still have about 90 kilometers left on the charge. So that should be more than enough to get back to the Netherlands, find a quick charger, or maybe even get home. Now, then I have to hypermile, and I'm not going to change my driving style for that.
Sleepless nights and wondering before you make it safely to the end, the end. There's things in life you simply need to.
This is the Fastned charger, so we have a Fastned over there, and that's still 67.5 kilometers, and we have a range of 84, so that should be no problem. We hope. So let's see if we can make it.
Before you make it safely to the end, the end, the end.
Still have 27 kilometers on the counter, and we still have to go 18. Now normally I wouldn't take this chance for the very simple reason you don't want to take a chance. But we want to learn the car, we want to see how safe it is and how far we can drive, so I don't really like this, but we're still gonna trust the computer and we're gonna make it. I hope. With 9 kilometers to spare.
Something about the way you move makes me wanna feel your groove. Something about the way you dress, baby, got me feeling like you miss, baby. We should still have fun, though we say we don't, 'cause I just wanna get down with you. For the last time, I can call you mine.
We made it
zich aan de linkerkant.
with 13 kilometers left.
Je bestemming bevindt zich aan de linkerkant.
So let's not waste it. Haven't kissed your lips for days. Don't remember how they taste. You can tell me when we're naked. You can tell me when we're naked. We don't have time, so let's not waste it. Haven't kissed your lips for days. Don't remember how they taste. You can tell me when we're naked. Naked.
Okay, one of the remarks we actually often get is, did you know that green energy isn't really green because it's still grey? Well, of course at home we have our solar panels, but for example Fastned, they use green energy only, as you can see on the label here. So don't worry, it's all really responsible. And we're still charging, so we're almost ready to go home. Okay, now of course you can charge all the way up to 100% or 94%, but it's way wiser of course to know how many kilometers you still have to drive and only charge that part, because at home it's way cheaper and you don't have to wait on the station. And that's actually one of the things that I hear a lot about from people that don't drive an EV, like, okay, you have to wait for 30 minutes to get home. You don't. This car has a range of about 200-225 kilometers in the summer and about 170 and 180 in the winter. Now, we were totally empty and we were in the station for about, I think, 5 or 6 minutes and we're already at 28%. Now, we are at the moment about 60 kilometers away from home, so it doesn't make any sense to charge up to 80%. We're probably going to charge till 50%. And then we easily make it home. So you don't have to wait for a long time, and with Fastned it's actually pretty fast. Now of course everything is connected, so I can now see on my smartphone how much I charged. So that means if you're in a restaurant you can just pick up your smartphone and see when you can go home or to your next destination. Now of course you also want to know how we like the Ioniq itself driving. It's totally different from the Audi A6. The Audi A6 is really like a limousine. It just floats over the road. This has way more connection to the road. So one could say it feels a little bit more sporty. On the other hand, I also understand why people tell you an EV doesn't have any soul. Especially if you drive in the eco mode, it's all incredibly quiet and incredibly smooth. You don't feel any shifting. It's fast, but it's a little bit boring. Now if you go to the normal mode, that's how you expect a normal car to drive. Now as soon as you go to the sports mode, that's where it gets a little bit more interesting. The car is really responsive, the steering is a little bit stiffer, and it just feels a lot more fun to drive. In the end, you have to choose for yourself what you like. If you do long stretches, I prefer the eco or normal mode. If I know that I'm, well, way within reach, I actually like the sports mode. It's really responsive. The other thing that I really like is the active lane control and adaptive cruise control. You could call it like a sort of autopilot. You're on the road and you can literally just relax. And you know that if there's a car in front of you, the car will actually slow down. And if you are not totally straight into the lanes, the car will adjust for you. You can even just let go of the steering wheel, but after 15 seconds it will start to beep because that's illegal at the moment. But it could be a full-fledged autopilot. It works really, really well. And of course, what about navigation and Android and Apple CarPlay? It just all works. The audio from the telephone is really nice. People are talking, hey, it's really quiet, it sounds great. And the audio itself, in the Audi it was more bassy, it was a little bit better, but that's a totally different price range. In the Ioniq, no problem at all, no complaints. Voices are really good and music sounds just amazing because you don't hear a lot of sound from the car itself. That's, by the way, another point. If you come from a normal internal combustion engine car, you're always used to the engine. In this car, no engine. But we came from an Audi A6 and that Audi was incredibly quiet on the road. Now in this car we don't hear the engine, but we still hear the tires, you hear the road. Overall I think we hear the same sound that we hear from the Audi. Now that's not bad, don't get me wrong, we had a lot of cars before the Audi and the Audi was incredibly quiet on the road. This is maybe a little bit louder on the same area, but it's very, very quiet on the road. You can listen to a podcast or to music. Just a really relaxing way of driving, especially combined with the semi-autopilot. You almost get lazy. We're at 41%. We're going to wait till 50 and then we're going to leave for home.
You don't let your feelings haunt you.
Okay, we have more than enough juice. So we're going to start the Fastned up. We charge 19 kilowatt hours, which is actually way too much, but well, it's in there. Press stop. And there we go. That's it. That's easy. And Daisy, you have charged 19.52 kilowatts of clean power from the sun and the wind. Love it.
I need someone to believe in. 'Cause it hurts whenever I stay. Is there another way? But it hurts even more when I go. You gotta let me know. Yeah, it hurts whenever I stay. Is there another way? But it hurts even more when I go. I'm screaming out. I'm screaming out. It's not about
Okay, we're back home with still 50 kilometers on the counter. So what is my first opinion about driving an EV for longer stretches? Well, it's very simple. You have to adjust your living and driving style. You don't have to drive like a grandpa or grandma, of course. You can drive whatever you want. But you have to realize that there's a certain range. Now with the Ioniq it's about 200, 220 kilometers. And Fastned stations are, in my opinion, the way to go. Like you saw when we parked in the parking garage, it was a very, very slow charger, even slower than with us at home. The weird thing is that in the app it actually said it's an 11 kilowatt hours charger, while at home we only have 5.6, 6.6, but it was way slower than we have at home. So this is something that maybe in the apps has to be arranged, or there's something else, but we'll learn that. Fastned was a big, big surprise, and actually not really a surprise, but that it actually worked the way that we hoped. You just plug in, you use the app, and you're done, and it was pretty fast. Now, overall, the best thing that I can actually tell you, it's a really relaxed way of driving as long as you trust the car. So this was the first time we really wanted to push it to the limits to see what happens, because if you always charge at 50% left, well, you never learn what happens when you go to that last 10%, and one day you will need that last 10%, so at least once push your EV and just see what happens. Overall, it was very reliable. It told us like, okay, in 50 kilometers there's the charge point, you still can drive 55 or 60, and in the end we lost maybe 2 or 3 kilometers because of course we drove 120 on the highway. Overall, very, very cool. So, when you're used to an IC car, so that's an internal combustion engine car, what you always can do is go to a gas station and just fill up. With an EV you have to plan it a little bit better. I really advise you guys to get the app, like for example the Fastned app or any other app that shows you in a filter the slow charges, medium, accelerated and fast charges. That can really save you a lot of time. Okay, a quick side note on the use of the apps. Now, the Fastned app also has a navigation system on board. That means that you can actually just plan your route and then just beam it to Waze or Google Maps. Now, this is something at the moment that I really advise you guys. So today we didn't do it. We just went Wild West style, just drive and see where we can charge. Now, when you follow the charging app from Fastned, you can actually tell the app how long can I drive. So for example, let's keep it safe, 170 kilometers. Where do you want to go? And it will actually plot the course for you. Like if you know from Tesla, they have that inside the car. So Fastned app actually does it a little bit like that. So it plans the route for you, and then you know that you can actually just come home easily and always use Fastned stations. But that's of course only Fastned. Now, if you are planning on getting an EV in the Netherlands, there are a lot of charging points. The problem is that most of those points aren't really fast. So you really have to figure out which one is fast, which one is slow. And this is something that we also have to learn. Overall today, we found out that if you see a charger that's 11 kilowatt hours, it isn't really fast. It can be really slow. Now in this case, it wasn't really a problem for the very simple reason we only needed a few kilometers. But if you're almost empty, I would highly recommend using an app like the Fastned app to actually plot your course before you start to drive. It's very easy to do, so why not? But in this case, we wanted to go on a little bit of an adventure. If you really have to be somewhere, just use the apps and it will work out. When will it be solved? Probably in a few years there will be more than enough fast charge stations along the route. Of course, not only Fastned is exploring those. You get a lot from BP, Shell, Eon, so it will grow. We're still at the very early stages, of course, of driving an EV. But in the Netherlands, it really goes really fast. So I can't wait until there are more than enough stations, so you don't need those apps anymore. Because, well, it makes driving just a little bit easier. So, that was it for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions, just leave comments below. And of course, if you have any remarks or tips, leave comments below. But most of all, smash that like button and of course tell other people about it. And if you didn't already, subscribe to our channel. Thank you so very much for watching, guys, and see you again next time. Bye bye.